Hello, and welcome back to your favorite daily podcast. A couple of things, a podcast about things. Today, I'm going to be talking about The Psychology of Money, the book. Stay tuned. I think for the past month or so, I've mentioned this book, or at least definitely mentioned the author Morgan Housel a couple of times. And it's because I was reading it in April. I finished it in April. And I have to say, this is one of the best books that I've read in the past couple of years, at least. And surprisingly, it isn't necessarily about money itself or like finance and personal finance. It is a book about personal finance, but not really about like, oh, you should invest in this or not invest in that and all of those things, which is what I really enjoy about it. For me, it's not surprising because the title is Psychology of Money, because that's what it really is about. It's really about the psychology of money. Like, the title is exactly what it is. It's about how we think about money, and the different ways that other people think about money, and how those two things can influence each other and our decisions. And I've touched on some of the ideas that Morgan Housel covers in the book. And so think of this as a mini review / summary of the book. And yeah. Before we go on, subscribe if you haven't. Okay, let's continue. The first thing that I really like about the book is because it's more about human behavior and some of the underlying principles of life and whatever. It's generally applicable even beyond financial decisions and what we do with our money. And I think it applies to also things like career, even friendships and relationships. I feel like there's so much in the book that can be applied to other areas of our lives beyond money. And I'm going to give a couple of examples. Also, I'm going to be referring to like page numbers and chapters because I highlighted, underlined, circled, starred, noted down actual quotes from this book in so many pages. I think like on every page, I have at least one sentence underlined. It's really, really packed. And it's a book that you will go back to over and over again. It's not like one and done. But anyway, so an example is here. He's talking about on page 132 about people are looking for people who give them specific answers. You're looking for people who can tell you what will happen in the future. But like nobody actually knows what the answer will be. And so he talks about like economic forecasters and stock analysts and how people are looking for someone to tell them what to invest in, what stock to buy, all those kinds of things. And I made a note on the side and I wrote, people want someone to give them answers. If you think about it, even like career wise, people are like, oh, what should I do? What career should I pursue? What should I study in university? It's the same thing in very many areas of our lives. We're always looking for the experts, the people who can predict the future, who will say what is going to happen. But the funny thing, which is also something he touches on in the book, is that nobody can actually answer that question. Nobody actually knows what's going to happen because we generally just have a lack of imagination of the things that could happen in the future. And it's not like a failure of planning or inability to plan. It's just that we cannot actually imagine everything that could happen in the future. If you ask people, there's somewhere in the book, I don't remember what page anymore, but in the book he talks about how post World War One, they had asked some people, I think on Armistice Day, why they were so excited. I was like, and they were like, oh, nothing like this is ever going to happen again. And we all know that a couple of years later World War II started. So we actually can't imagine the future. It's not like we can't have a picture of the future or we can't have hopes and dreams for the future. It's just that we actually cannot imagine every exact thing that will happen in the future. And my go-to example, which is when I lived through, is COVID. Like you can't imagine that people who were doing economic forecasting and financial planning and inventory management and even in making a career decision or a life choice, all of those things, nobody, or maybe like 0.001% of people in the world could forecast that we'll have another global pandemic like the one that happened some 100 years ago. A lack of imagination, a failure of imagination. And he talks about this a lot in the earlier chapters, and also towards like page 171 of the book. Another thing that I really, in another concept that I really picked up and was reinforced and I was reminded about, is later in the book. So this second point is somewhat related to the first one, and is like people are looking for expert advice in many things, but a lot of the time it's not about what is quote unquote rational, but what is reasonable. So it could be rational to do something, but the definition of if it's reasonable or not is based on the individual and their context. For example, rationally you should want to go through a fever, like experience a fever so you can recover, but nobody wants to go through that because it's painful and is irritating and you are just like basically suffering in pain, and so nobody wants to experience that. And he goes on further towards the end of the book on like page 191 to talk about how quote, medicine is a complex profession and interactions between physicians and patients are also complex, and this is the same with financial advice. And he says, I can't tell you what to do with your money because I don't know you, I don't know what you want, and I don't know when you want it and why you want it. And so it's also the same thing with many other areas of our lives. There are universal truths about things, and that's why you hear some the common concepts over and over again. However, there are things that are not applicable depending on your current state. He talks about how even doctors who, when they have patients who have some kind of cancer or this, they will like try different things to find the cure, find the solution, make sure the person is healed and recovered. But when they are diagnosed with similar illnesses, they're like, yeah, whatever, like I'm not going to go through this process. So it's possible for you to quote unquote have the answers and to know what to do and still not do it because it doesn't fit into your current context or what you're interested in. And I think about it with like career coaching, which is something that I also do, because I always say that I don't know. Like when people come to me to ask me like for mentorship or career coaching, I was like, I actually don't know what you should do because I don't know your life. So we have to talk. I can share my thoughts with you. I can tell you what I've learned, what I've seen, what I've experienced, whether through my own life or vicariously through other people. And you can pick from it what is relevant to your context and your situation, your goals and your life. And I found that very, very interesting from the book. There's a lot more to talk about from this book. Like honestly, you should read the book. Like go and read this book. I promise you, you will not regret. This is one of the best books I've read ever. But one more thing I want to highlight from the book is appealing fictions. And this is basically that there are many things in life that we think are true because we desperately want them to be true. And that's exactly how he writes it in the book, which is so true. He gives a story of a man in a Yemeni village where his son was really ill, and then the elders of the village were like, you should do something like poke a burning stick into his son's chest, and his son died. And afterwards the man said to the New York Times that, quote, when you have no money and your son is sick, you'll believe anything. And it's just a reminder for us to question the things that we believe, the things that we think are true, because it fits into the story that we want to tell ourselves about what life is or how life is or how we are or who we are or what we can do or what we can't do, and so on and so forth. And there are many of those things that we know somewhere deep down in us that this is not true, this is not real, this won't work, but there's a sense of desperation for our own sense of identity and sense of self that we hold on to those things even when we know that they are actually not true. Hence why I guess he calls it appealing fictions. So, and in the context of money, it's like there are things that we believe to be true. Oh, I need to find this one short startup that I'm going to invest in and it's going to make me a billionaire. Or in career terms, we also do the same thing. Or even with relationships, somebody that you know that you should just break up and move on, but no, you've invested so much in it. And it also goes back to the sunk cost effect as well. But yeah, there's a lot in this book. If I kept going, I would we'll be here for like an hour or more even. But I want to say again, in case you didn't already get it, go and read this book. Get a copy of the book, read it. You will not regret it. I was gonna give you a money back guarantee, but then I was like, I'm not the one who wrote the book. I shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, definitely go and read the book. Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode of A Couple of Things. If there was anything you found interesting or insightful, or you enjoyed the episode, please do share to someone or multiple people. Like, leave a comment, and definitely do subscribe and all the nice things. Bye. Here is your regular reminder that I am accepting questions and topic suggestions. Also, you can now nominate yourself or someone else to be featured on the podcast to talk about anything that you find interesting. And you can do all of this, whether submitting a question or nominating yourself or someone, through the link in the show notes.